All right, welcome back. We are again switching up a little bit. Thought we would get into some cooking. One of the things that with COVID I ended up getting very into was baking. I will insert B-roll now of our whole front closet that is full of unnecessary cooking utensils based on the amount of cooking that I do, which is very minimal. But one of the things that I loved, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, is I kind of fell down a rabbit hole with Claire Saffitz from Bon Appetit. She also had released this cookbook, Dessert Person. I ended up trying one of her, or a couple of her cakes, and fell in love with them. And one of them has kind of become my staple, which is the Carrot and Pecan Cake. On page 175 if you get the book. I'll also link, she has a video or two of her actually cooking this as well, so you can go down in the description and get that. Why don't we pop some Prosecco and get to bacon. Let's just go over quickly kind of what we're gonna need for the cake part of the recipe. You need vanilla extract. If there's one measurement in baking that I never follow and I always go over, it's vanilla extract. We've got buttermilk, vegetable oil, pecans, obviously carrots, important for carrot cake, some fresh ginger that we'll grate up, eggs, brown sugar, granular sugar, AP flour, baking soda, baking powder, salt, ground cinnamon, and cloves. I will say, cloves do play an important role in the taste profile, but not something that you want to overdo. It's a very prominent flavor profile. I don't have ground ginger. The recipe calls for both fresh and ground. I am horrible always at checking my cupboards before I go to buy things for baking, because I always assume I have things that I don't have, and I always assume that I don't have something at home and buy it and then find 3 bags of it here. Perfect example, dark brown sugar, literally have like 5 bags tucked away. So, all right. In the cookbook, the first step that Claire has you do is actually toast the either pecans or walnuts that you wanted to use. This is often where I fail first, because you're supposed to toast them and you literally turn around for 30 seconds and they're black charcoal. It looks like she suggests 8 to 10 minutes at 350. I do also highly recommend these like Silplat things. If you bake a decent amount, I just absolutely hate having to wash and scrub the grime off of baking pans. And so with this, as long as it's not like buttery and oozing out, you just literally pull this out, wash it, be done. It's amazing. We've got the oven preheating. We're going to get our pecans. Now we're going to prep our pans. Because it's just Brett and I'm gonna make a smaller cake than I usually would if I was taking this over to Easter, but I've just got these springform pans that I got, I think, at Target. And then go and just pop on the springform like that, and then just cut off the excess. You wanna make sure none of the little bits are hanging out to a point that they will touch the oven itself. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least this parchment paper will catch smoke if it touches the actual oven. Got my 2 springform tins, and then just grab a neutral oil like vegetable oil and a paper towel, and I just kind of coat the inside of both the pans just to try and make sure they don't stick. All right, pecans going in. Pre-toasted, please don't come out black. 8 minutes on the timer. All right, so now we are going to mix the wet ingredients in a medium bowl. So that's the carrots, buttermilk, fresh ginger, and vanilla. And so first things first, we have to actually prepare our carrots and ginger. Learn my lesson. The first couple times I did this, I peeled them and then hand grated them. Never again. Food processor, way faster, way easier, worth just, I mean, the arm strength was team too much. Go ahead and peel these bad boys. So while we do this super mundane task, I did not grow up cooking or baking. I helped on holidays and stuff a little bit with my mom and family, but even as an adult, didn't have a ton of interest in cooking. It's not something that brought me a ton of joy or satisfaction, but like I said, when I was deep in the throes of lockdown, I needed something to do, and I started baking. And I enjoy it way more than I thought I would. I'm not doing it regularly. I think that's more of kind of just where I'm at in a work-life balance that does not exist right now. I keep using the future state of us having kids being the catalyst that I think will propel me into being more of a cooker, baker. We'll stick with that for now. And then when the kids come and I have not changed, then we will know that that was not true, and I'm sure I'll find another goalpost to go after. And so all of that really is to say, I am not coming into this with a lot of skill. If you are a novice baker, don't think that this isn't for you. Pecans are done. Okay, perfect. This is exactly what you're looking for. They're darker brown, but they're not charred, which is unfortunately the state they often end up in with me. Carrots are peeled. I'm gonna go get the food processor. So as I said, total lifesaver, just use a food processor if you have one. You can hand grate if you're one of those people with extra human strength. I am not. And so you just kind of put it in here and then it shreds it up for you and you're ready to go. So, and in 30 seconds, all of that hard work is done. Got our carrots. And so all of this is going to go into a medium bowl. So we'll put the carrots in here. The buttermilk. Everything you see on the counter has been sitting out for about 2 hours while I was setting everything up. And the vanilla extract with the paste. All right, and then the last thing is we need to grate some fresh ginger, so we will go ahead and do that. Ginger is kind of a pain in the ass, but I will say the first couple times I didn't use fresh ginger, I just used the ground stuff, and it really does make a huge difference. Something like that, because we only need a tablespoon, so that's barely anything. I am going to do a little extra because I don't have ground ginger for the other part of the recipe, so I'm just going to substitute with fresh for that as well. But that is a full tablespoon. We have our wet mixture here. Go ahead and just give it a little stir. Then it says to go ahead and set it aside. So we will do that. Okay, so then it wants us to beat up the pecans. And just gonna get a Ziploc, spread them out. If you've got a meat hammer, you can use that, or you can just use a rolling pin. So I like to have kind of a variety of sizes, not pulverize them into a dust, but not have like giant chunks left. So got our pecans. To another medium bowl, we're gonna add these finer pecans, the flour, cinnamon, baking powder, baking soda, ground ginger, cloves, and whisk to combine. This is obviously the dry ingredients to complement our wet. I don't have two mediums, so we're gonna do large for this one. So got 1/3 of our pecans that were finely beaten. We're going to add flour, cinnamon, ground cloves, our sea salt, our baking powder and baking soda, which I've mixed together. And then we are going to whisk them together so you've got an even distribution. All right, so that is our dry ingredients. Next, we are going to beat our eggs and our sugars together until we've got kind of that ribbony base that then we'll add our wet and dry ingredients to. Use our whisk attachment. Beat on medium-low until the eggs break up, and then beat on medium-high. About 4 minutes of where you're getting the actual ribbons dropping in. Put in our granulated sugar, our brown sugar, and 4 eggs. It's not a clean crack, but doesn't look like there's any shells. All right, 4. So this is what we've got. Yummy, yum, delicious. And medium until the eggs are combined. All right, that looks pretty good. Wrong direction. All right, so that's what it's looking like. The eggs are kind of broken up. Whisk it on medium-high for about 4 minutes until we've got that ribboning effect. Not quite. And so now that we've got the base of the cake kind of at that consistency, we're now gonna stream in the oil, but very slowly. Wanting to make sure that it's fully emulsified. It'll deflate a little bit, but you want to have it nicely mixed in with the eggs. You do you. That looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do is alternate mixing in our wet ingredients and our dry ingredients. We're going to use the paddle attachment here. But we've got our dry, so I'm going to mix about 1/3 of this in. this quick. And then we're going to add half of the wet. Another third of our dry ingredients. The rest of the wet mixture. And the remainder of the dry. They do rise quite a bit, so I am always cautious to not overfill. So something like that, probably about halfway full. Do the other one. And I've left the oven at 350 from when we were toasting the pecans, which is the temperature that these cook at, for 25 to 30 minutes. All right, so now that we've got the cakes baking, we will turn our attention to the classic cream cheese frosting that Claire has. I have opted for the brown butter version. So the first step is actually browning the butter. That on medium. Again, we've got our 2 sticks of unsalted butter. You can see we're getting a little bit more of a reaction. It's definitely still yellow, not brown when you move the foam away, but we're getting into that territory here. You can see underneath, you've got that nice kind of caramel brown color. And those little bits, that's what you're looking for. Clean. Done. I'm going to take our brown butter and pour it in our cooled KitchenAid bowl. You want all of the little brown bits that are floating around and in the bottom. And then you're just going to set that aside. You don't want it to fully harden, but you want it to not be molten, because I think then it messes with the cream cheese and the other stuff. So it is a semi-temperate day. I'm probably just going to go put it outside for a little bit. All right, so while we have our brown butter chilling on the porch, we can kind of figure out the rest of the ingredients. I don't think there's a ton of measuring that has to happen here. So it's 1 pound of full-fat cream cheese, 2 8-ounce packets, check. We've got 1 pound, which is always a wonderful thing to read, of powdered sugar, vanilla bean paste, and a little bit of kosher salt. All right, I was able to get one of the cakes out. They're resting over there. So we'll just prep this the same way that we prepped it previously and get that last cake in the oven. Like I said, it's only the two of us. There's no need for like a 10-person cake to sit in the fridge and rot. Our butter is starting to solidify a bit, so I think we're good there. We switched to the paddle attachment with the little scraper on the side here. And what we're gonna do is beat the butter and cream cheese on medium-high until it's smooth. Turn this up. All right, cream cheese, plop those in. Oh. Oh my God, it smells so good. I would call that pretty smooth. And so we're gonna go ahead and add the salt and the vanilla bean extract, as well as the pound of powdered sugar. No, this is not a healthy cake despite there being carrots in it. It's about half. All right, and then for this, you're definitely gonna want to do that towel method like I had mentioned before and pulse on low, like 1 or 2 times. All right, there we go. Hey, you are looking at a Dan that is 2 days older than when you saw him last. I had finished putting the icing together, baking the cakes, and just completely ran out of steam. And yesterday was a long work day. So here we are, 48 hours later, to actually assemble our cake and give it a taste test. I did candy some carrots as well. And we've got our kind of beaten up pecans from early on. We've got our yummy frosting and our cakes. So I've got my 3 layers of my cake. I think I learned this from Claire. If not, I learned it from somebody that's not me, independently Google searching things. But a really nice way to actually decorate your cake is to first put down a little bit of frosting in the middle that holds that base layer down. And then to make sure as you're icing around the outsides, you're not messing the plate, you put strips of parchment paper that you can just kind of pull out. Ever since I found that method, that's been kind of my go-to. So we will do that right now. Random side note, this was the cake stand that we used at our wedding. You don't need much, just like a little strip. And what I'm gonna do is cut this into 4. Let's just kind of do a base like that. We'll take my little spatula, grab just a little bit, you don't need a lot, but just a little bit of icing just to sit in the middle. And then we'll grab our first layer. Why don't we start with this one? And you're just gonna go ahead and place it down. Now we're gonna start actually assembling. You want to do a pretty generous layer of frosting in between. Especially if you have thicker cake layers, you want to make sure you've got a good balance of that, obviously without going too nuts. That looks pretty good. Then we will go to our next layer, which is this one, and I am gonna cut the dome off of it. There you go. Have that. Layer number 2. Place that down. And voila, we've got Claire Saffitz amazing, amazing carrot cake. I cannot tell you how big of a game changer that brown butter frosting is. Holy crap, this is so good. 10 out of 10, would recommend. If you're interested in trying a new bake, like I said, I'm gonna link the videos that Claire did on the actual recipe down below in the description. Hope you guys had fun. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you want me to do more cooking type content. I make a pretty delicious key lime pie. We might make specialty cocktails. We can do handmade pasta. We can do a bunch of stuff. Thanks for hanging out and go enjoy some carrot cake.